Hello students, in our previous class we have learned the income from capital gain and the computation of income from house property. Today we will learn one of the most important chapter, that is residential status and tax incidence. Now what is the tax incidence? The tax incidence of an assessee depends on his residential status. For instance, whether an income accrued to an individual outside India is taxable in India depends whether the individual is staying in India for how many days or for staying abroad for how many days. That is his residential status. Now remember one thing, citizenship and residential status are a totally different thing. So a person's nationality or his voter responsibility maybe depends on his citizenship. But how many tax he will pay, that depends on the residential status, means the tax incidence of that assessee. Now we know, look at the screen, there are 5 types of entities. These are important to know the residential status: an individual, an HUF, a farm or an AOP, or a joint stock company, and every other person. Now what are the different types of status we have? The first one is a normal resident, means who is staying in India. Second is he is a resident but not ordinary resident, means he is staying in India for a few days and also staying in abroad. And the last one is the NRI, means non-resident in India. He is for a maximum period of his time he is staying outside India. Now how we will take those status? There are some rules. Let's start with them. Now first, we have to find out whether such individual is resident in India. If such individual is resident in India, then find out whether he is ordinary resident or not. However, if such individual is a non-resident in India, then no further investigation is necessary. So being a resident is important. Only in that case we will proceed. But if he or she is a non-resident, we will stop there. Because for a non-resident, the tax liability will be different. At the time of calculation, remember, there are some basic conditions. Actually, there are 2 basic conditions and there are 2 additional conditions. First, take out the basic conditions. Basic condition A, he is in India in the previous year for a period of 182 days or more. And the basic condition B is he is in India for a period of 60 days or more during the previous year. And now remember, it's not or, is and 365 days or more during 4 immediately preceding the previous year. So the first condition is depending only the previous year, and the second condition we have 2 parts. The first part is 60 days or more, and the second part is including with that 365 days or more during the 4 immediately preceding the previous year. Now there are some exceptions of this. You can see the screen, there are 3 kind of exceptions: 1990, 1995, 96, and the 90 to 95. Now these are the additional condition. What is the additional condition? Number 1, he has been resident in India in at least 2 out of 10 previous years immediately preceding the relevant previous year. Now what do you mean by the term immediately preceding the relevant previous year? Now suppose your previous year is 2019-20. It means your assessment year is 2020-21. So if your previous year is 19-20, then your immediately preceding relevant previous year will be 18-19. So 18-19 will be your immediately preceding the relevant previous year. 19-20 will be your immediate previous year, and 2021 is your assessment year. Now, what is additional condition 2? He has been in India for a period of 730 days or more during 7 immediately preceding the relevant previous years. So at the time of calculation of the residency status, first we will consider the basic conditions. If they are fulfilled, then we will come along with the additional conditions. So if someone is not fulfilling the basic condition, we will not come over with the additional condition. So to open the additional condition, basic condition is the gate. Now, these are the important thing. If the person satisfy at least one of the basic conditions, but none of the additional conditions, and case 2, if he satisfy at least one of the basic condition and one of the additional conditions. A non-resident will be an individual if he satisfy one of the basic conditions in case of non-resident and additional conditions are not relevant. So a person will be NRI if he is not satisfying any of the basic conditions. So we have to don't consider the additional conditions, means he is a non-resident. Now what is for the HUF? For the HUF, the place of control is very important. If it is wholly in India, then he is a resident. Wholly out of India, then the non-resident. But if the Karta or the main person or the manager has been resident of India in 2 out of 10 previous years, now we can make a connection with the individuals here. The same rules were there, and immediately preceding the previous year and 730 days or more during 7 years, then he is ordinary resident. So there will be some conditions regarding the HUF, and there will be conditions in the individuals. Now, when a person will be an ordinary resident in India, a Karta has been resident in India for at least 2 out of 10, and the same additional condition, the 730 days or more during 7 years immediately preceding the relevant previous year. Same rules for the AOP, where the place of control and the residential status of the family is important. Same rule for the company also. So for an Indian company is wholly in India resident, out of India resident, and partly in India and partly outside India. If it is an Indian company, is resident. So for the rules for the Indian company is very simple. If it is an Indian company, the place of control is India or not, it is Indian company. But if it is a company other than Indian company, then only in the first case he is a resident, and for the other 2 cases he is non-resident. Now it will be easier for you if I give you an example. Let's take an example. This is a very simple example for residential status for an individual. Now for the HUF and the AOP or the farm or for a company, we will come later. So we are only doing this sum for an individual. During the previous year 1819, X, a foreign citizen, stayed in India for just 69 days. Now we have to determine his residential status for the AY 1920 on the basis of the following information. In 1516, he was present in India for 366 days. So it was obviously a leap year. During 1213 and 1112, he was in Japan for 359 and 340 days respectively, and for the balance period in India. Now, X is a resident in India for the assessment year 2019-20. So there are 3 kinds of informations. Now these days are very important at the time of calculation. Now you have to calculate these days very carefully because we have to consider them for the tax incidence. Now we are coming to the solution. First we have to calculate whether he is a resident or not. It's very simple. He is resident for the previous year 1819 as he satisfies the second condition as he was there during the previous year 69 days in the preceding 4 years for 366 days. So the basic conditions is fulfilled. Now, what is the other additional conditions? So in the other, we know in the other additional conditions, we have to consider the 7 previous years. So we are starting with the 17, 18, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10, 10. So we have to take where he was in India, he was a resident in India out of 7 in the 10 immediately preceding the previous years, or the 730 calculation in the 7 preceding previous years. So from this calculation, it is clear that is 366, 7 and 17. He was in India for less than 730 days in the 7 preceding previous years. He is also non-resident in 9 out of 10 previous years preceding the previous year. Hence, we can say he is a resident because he has fulfilled one of basic conditions, but he has not fulfilled both the additional conditions. So he is a resident but not ordinary resident. Now, what happens if a person is fulfilling any one or both of the additional conditions? Then he is a resident and ordinary resident. Now, what happens if a person does not fulfill any of the basic conditions? So he is a non-resident. So if he is not satisfying any of the basic conditions, we don't have to consider the additional conditions. So he is an NRI. So simply here Mr. X, we will say he is a resident but not ordinary resident. So once again, I am saying there are basic conditions and additional conditions. If a person fulfill any one of the basic condition, he will move on to the additional condition. Now, if he or she fulfills that, then he is a resident and ordinary. Now, if in the second case he fulfills any one of the basic conditions or the basic conditions, then also he will move on to the additional conditions. But if he does not fulfill any of the additional condition, then he is a resident but not ordinary resident, like this problem. And if a person is not fulfilling any of the additional condition, or sorry, any of the basic condition, then he or she will be an NRI. Now this is a very funny picture that tax authorities are behind on every tax evading assessees. Now what is a tax evasion? Tax evasion means you are not paying your tax simply, either by some legal way or by taking help some illegal ways. So whatever you are doing, tax authorities are there. In the next class, we will do about the tax evasion, and also we will do the residential status of an HUF and the registered company. Since then, bye. Hope you have enjoyed. Thank you.